Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
Yeah, interestingly, Google just killed its business chat or whatever they call it, messaging,
Well, there was two things they killed. They killed Google Business Profile Chat, which was the forward-facing tool, and they killed Business Messenger, which was the API that Aaron so loved as he integrated with it through Leadferno. One of the things that struck me about that is just how when Google discontinues something, it's not a zero-sum game, right? The big guys like Podium or Sochi, they don't really care. Okay, it's in, it's out. Podium had an early market lead with it, and they got some customers from it. But it's just for them another expense. But when they do it to a company like Leadferno, it's very painful. Yep. And it's because you have limited resources, limited ability to allocate your money and time. You take all this time to integrate with it, and then poof, it's gone. Yeah, it just strikes me as how it's not a zero-sum game when it comes to the that's smaller, innovative companies.
So sort of momentary digression on that point, because I think that's interesting. Google has rolled out so many products that they've subsequently killed. If you go to that Google graveyard or whatever it is, there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things there. I mean, does this experience make you more skeptical or more reticent to, integrate with some Google tool in the future going forward?
1,000%. I mean, it makes me even put way low on the priority list integrating with almost any tool to some extent. When you consider, I would guess from end to end, because of so many different elements, it's not just connecting to Google's API for business messages, but the approval process that they had was kind of janky. And so we had to work to kind of automate some of those things in verifying an agent, activating an agent, working with their support teams. That, the easy way, it took us 6 months, and that's a really significant amount of dev time where we could have built a number of other things that were helpful to our customers. And so if anything, I look at it like it just places us in an equal basket as some of the business that actually get strong leads and really found Google Business Messages and Google Business Chat to be a significant tool for their business in communicating with customers. So we're right alongside them and feeling like, oh, here was something that we put a lot of effort into and we're utilizing, and then it just gets dumped and taken away. And then what I also found just really, interesting / crazy is I still think there's no way Google is not going to continue to pursue some type of interaction like a chat icon or a message icon or whatever else. But as you guys have noted and seen, there's tests now where they're either going to connect it to WhatsApp or SMS. So, if that comes to fruition, that's fine, because that SMS can still come into our platform. It actually bodes just as well for us. I'll still never get that 6 months. And let's just call it, 100K of engineer salaries and time and whatever else back. But it's just really interesting. And when they're just willing to kind of concede because they either can't manage it right, get enough traction, whatever else, that now they're going to connect to a competing product like WhatsApp and just be funneling traffic and users that way.
I would
Aaron,
comment
on that point, what's your sense of how useful this was for your customers? I'm sure there was a bell curve of, utility in terms of what percentage of leads came in through GBP messaging. But like, generally speaking, do you think it was a heavily used feature? Like, compare it to Facebook messaging, for example, or Instagram DMs or whatever. Like, where was it percentage wise versus those two potentially better used sort of chat interfaces?
Yeah. So just as everything else in digital marketing, there was a lot of it depends with it. If I had to throw out a raw number, I would say only 20% of our customers found really good to great value in it. So pretty low from that standpoint. But what we did see is there's two that we really saw stand out. One where they had just great Google Business Profile visibility, where based on their business name, things like that, they rank for, or they get their GBP showing for category type surges. Yeah. Yes, things like that. And so that was a great inroad, top of funnel for them to be able to capture that. So those are ones that are definitely, very frustrated because they had enough lead volume to equal out with, we're all probably aware of the spam issues and everything else that were there with it. The other one is in multi-location businesses. And a lot of that really came down to is we offered them the opportunity to take, if they had 10 Google Business profiles, 20 Google Business profiles, we could centralize all of those into just one inbox for them. So as with many things, what Google left for on the management side and communication side was a lot to be desired. So you'd have these multi-location law firms or cleaning companies, things like that, that literally would have multiple different people assigned to different locations to field these messages. So no consistency, little reliability, process, all those kind of things. So when we're able to centralize those and give them tools to auto reply to them, so now you had instant replies, which Google was tracking and rewarding, and things like that. That really came into play for those. So those are the two that we saw have the most amount of impact.
Well, and you have to think, to your point, that they're, if they're going to replace it with SMS or WhatsApp, that they're probably still going to have those same sort of rewards for people who sort of respond, but they're going to be tracking, right? I mean, somehow they're going to be tracking what's happening.
Yeah, it's leads. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit more difficult when it's at an arm's length outside of their ecosystem, right? Which kind of, again, surprises me in a number, I'm both surprised and not at all surprised as usual with everything that Google does. But it definitely makes tracking that harder where, man, they had access to these conversations, right? And to me, there's just so much more that could be done with that data and understanding the context and things like that, not just like first reply, but total replies. Did this close, things like that. I just saw so many more opportunities on what they could do with it, but obviously they didn't feel the same way or for whatever reason.
It wasn't a difference maker for them at all. Didn't move the needle, didn't do anything.
I would position it in the context of their financialization of their company. They laid off a lot of people, and local was very heavily hit 2 years ago, and again this year. And when and from what I can understand in talking to several people who had a behind the scenes look, they became resource constrained in the GBP arena. And so this is part and parcel of that financialization and shift towards AI to solve all these problems.
Squeezing blood out of a stone.
Yes. I said it more politely, but absolutely squeezing and shaking, as somebody said, the couch cushions for dimes.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.